Okay, so the very core of building up the arguments in my current proposal is the theory that uh, that of Beret et al. They came up with a study that would show that it is not in the two language representation. So they made use of bilinguals as participants in the study with three groups. So the first group is unbalanced bilinguals, meaning in one language, the participants were only proficient in one language, so it's unbalanced. And then they made use of balanced unswitching or non-switching, meaning they have knowledge of two language representations, but they are not often switching into one language to the other. And then the other one is balance switching, meaning knowledge of knowledge of two language representations, and they are frequently switching from one language to the other. So in the study, the point of argument is that it is not in the knowledge of two language representation. It's not only on the knowledge, but it's the frequency of use. Because in their study, the balance switching perform or outperform the unbalanced and the balanced non-switching. So that is where I'm starting to build up my arguments. Because number one, in my previous study, we conducted Madrazo Bernardo 2018. We were focusing more on the knowledge of two language and three language representations. So we did not look into whether they are switching or they are non-switching participants. So in my current proposal, I would want to see, test the hypothesis whether is it really in the switching or the knowledge of two and three language representations would suffice in terms of their edge in the use of executive control, meaning better executive control. So in the rate study, they only made use of two languages. So maybe there have been no study yet that would investigate on the switching from L1, L2, or L3. So first of all, we will have to make use of the instrument that Verate used, but we need to add one language representation because we'll be using trilingualism. So, but it is clear that the knowledge of trilingualism can boost executive control. In fact, in our study, we found that trilinguals have an edge, compared to bilinguals in terms of executive control in certain conditions. So we would want to see now. So with the additional task used in Verate. So basically, I read the method used by Verate. So if you look at the method used, it was only survey. They came up with the conclusion with merely the use of survey. So it's a self-rating scale. So meaning participants will have to rate, will have to tell whether they are switching or they are non-switching. So I think in our study, in my proposal, we might be using experimental tasks that are not survey. But online, that maybe we will be giving a task, and then we will see their performance. That is what we're trying to see. So we will have to maybe use sophisticated method, not only limiting to survey. So we will have to make use of experimental tasks. So in fact, I already phrased out the title for this. No? Maybe we will just have to revisit that. So okay, so that's it. So we are now at the heart of the method. No? So really, in doing research, the method is really crucial. So as I was pointing out a while ago that Verrate et al. Made use of self-rating scale. So I think that is the limitation of the study that we need to address if we will be theorizing on this line of inquiry, where we will be looking at the switching tendencies of the participants. So I think self-rating scale wouldn't be enough. So I came across with an article that would be really theorizing and as well using different methods in attempting to measure switching in linguistic and non-linguistic tasks. So I think this is really in-depth study making use of experimental tasks that tries to see the behavior of participants on what are they more efficient at. Are they efficient in voluntary tasks in non-linguistic, not only in non-linguistic but linguistic processing as well. So in their study, they found that in certain tasks, be it non-linguistic or linguistic tasks, voluntary switching experimental task would somehow elicit in the participants more efficiency. So there were literature mentioned here or cited, Golan and Ferreira 2009 and Arrington and Longdan 2004. So if you look at the study, the point is whatever language that comes to mind. So they will be giving the task if it's volunteer. So voluntary. So whatever language that would come to mind. So for example, so since it's non-linguistic processing, they would be using, for example, judging single digits. So judging single digits whether they're odd or even. So the instruction is whatever language that would come to mind. So when prompted with digits, they will just have to decide whether the digit is even or odd, or if the digit is greater than 5. So when you say whatever language that would come to mind, I think that is more spontaneous. At the moment, you can see whether the participants will really do switch, right? So in this particular proposal, I think voluntary switching task would be more appropriate, because we wouldn't want to make use of tasks that would artificially or mechanically capture the participant's behavior. I think it's important in terms of cognitive processing. I think it's important that we need to make use of voluntary, because it will really be coming out from them without actually giving any prompt, or actually without forcing them to answer this. For example, in the case of cute, it's like somehow leading them, it's like prompting them to be switching. But if it's voluntary, then you would know that really the participants would switch or not. So I think voluntary is more appropriate if we want to really measure whether participants do switch or not. So it has to be, I think, experimental task to be the judge of that, whether they switch or not. Not only them self-rating themselves that they are switching, because eventually you will have to test that online. So in actual, at the moment, you'll give them the task, then figure out whether they switch or not through voluntary in non-linguistic voluntary switching in non-linguistic tasks. Non-linguistic because the focus is more on executive control. So executive control is a non-linguistic ability. So I think, yeah, this Golan, Kleinman, and Weyrenga is, I think, appropriate, very relevant to my proposal. So now we are inching closer to deciding. We're inching closer to deciding really. Okay, so what method, appropriate method to use? Okay, so today is productive because I'm clear with the method already. Okay, so since you're clear with the method, so I think I'm able to really finalize a conceptual framework. So if the conceptual framework is very clear with the method in mind, because the method is crucial, because the theorizing will be affected if the method is not clear. So the problem is clear, but then the question is, do we have the relevant method to use, to be used in the study? Okay, so I will be fetching my wife after this. So when I reach home, so since I'm already done, so I won't be paraphrasing anymore because I feel bored already with the process. So I have it in mind. All I need to do now is to sit and start with the storyline, and then you just have to come up with coherent paragraphs that would lead to, from the introduction down to the method that we're going to use. Okay, so thank you. Bye.